Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another Live with Dr. Dawn. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn 𝘄𝘄𝘄𝗏, double board certified child, adolescent, and adult and sports psychiatrist. I'm a two-time best-selling author, producer, podcaster, media influencer. I'm the sole practitioner of ADHD Wellness Center in Houston, Texas, and the founder and CEO of 𝘗𝘄𝘄𝘄𝗏𝗡𝗠𝗏𝑥. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And boy, don't I have another special guest for you tonight. But before I do, go ahead. You know what I'm going to ask. Go ahead and share, like, and comment throughout this broadcast. Share with people that you know need to be here, whether there are young ones who actually, okay, I'm sorry. Or whether there are young ones who are interested in athletics, they are athletics, or they are athletes, they're involved in sports programming, pro athletes, elite athletes, those who love athletes. Listen, this is the program for you tonight. This is the broadcast for you. And listen, even if you don't love athletes, this is a special broadcast for you because I have a wonderful, wonderful guest who's going to actually share something that is releasing tomorrow. So go ahead. I want to see you. I want to see you in the virtual space. Let me know that you are here so I can acknowledge your presence. Let me know that you're here. Let us know where you're actually viewing this broadcast from, and go ahead and comment throughout the broadcast. My special guest tonight, you've actually seen him on Live with Dr. Dawn a couple of times. He was last year a part of my launch, 𝘗𝘄𝘄𝘄𝗏𝗡𝗠𝗏𝑥, and I really, really, truly am so appreciative of this brother here. I don't even know if we're related. I know his last name is Brown, so he has to be great, right? Coming from a great lineage. But Justin Brown, he was actually born and raised in Pennsylvania, born in Pennsylvania, raised in Delaware. And during his youth, he was the definition of an athlete, playing football, basketball, baseball, and running back. During Justin's last 2 years in high school, he narrowed his focus on football. He earned first-team all-conference and all-state honors his junior and senior year and accepted a scholarship to Penn State University. Justin excelled as a punt returner and wide receiver at Penn State while earning academic All-Big Ten team his freshman year. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Media Studies and 3.5 years as a full-time student and varsity athlete. Wow, that's incredible. After his junior year, Brown transferred to the University of Oklahoma, earning honorable mention honors as a wide receiver and punt returner. Justin finished second on the team in all-purpose yards for the 2013 season. Following the season, Justin was drafted in the 6th round, 186th pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he played for 2 seasons, before being claimed by the Buffalo Bills. As a member of the Bills, Brown suffered an unfortunate foot injury and was released. While recovering from his foot injury, Justin suffered 2 additional season-ending injuries, which landed him back home in Wilmington, Delaware. Justin battled depression, fear, and anxiety as he stumbled through the lowest moments of his life. It was at this point that he met a local business owner who challenged him to re-engineer the process that contributed to him becoming an NFL athlete. He assured him that if he applied the same process to his new career path in whatever he chose, he would have greater levels of success than when he played in the NFL. This new mindset led Justin holding a substitute position at a local public high school. Soon after, he accepted an associate teaching position at a private elementary school. These positions allowed him to grow his knowledge and use his life experiences to better serve the youth. Today, Justin is the president of Value Solutions, LLC, where he adds value through speaking and consulting student athletes and coaches. He challenges them to look past their athletic ability in their sport or profession and dive deeper to discover their true identity, ultimately preparing them for the different transitions that they will experience in life. Listen, you all, Justin has become one of a good friend of mine over these last few months, actually. I've actually connected with Justin on numerous occasions. He's been supportive of the Live with Dr. platform, of the Mental Health Athletics organization. And now today, I am here honorably and gratefully here to return the favor. I want to go ahead and bring into the virtual space, introducing my guest this evening, Mr. Justin Brown. Hi, Justin.
How you doing, Dr. Dawn?
How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. And yourself?
I'm good. How you doing during this pandemic?
I'm thriving.
Thriving and surviving.
Thriving and surviving.
Yeah, I understand. It's cold where you are, huh?
It is. It's gotten a little nippy. A lot colder than Houston.
Listen, I didn't know you finished college in 3.5 years.
Yes.
We didn't talk about that. I never knew that.
So I mean, I've always been like goal oriented. Going into college, I had a plan of, being able to graduate before I, took my talents to the NFL or creating that opportunity. So I always had it in mind that, going into, my senior year, I had to have my degree by that fall so that I could prepare to train, for the combine and not really worried about taking classes or, having credits, still, and lingering in the air. So, I had to make the sacrifice of pretty much taking school all year round for 3.5 years, summer sessions, 15 credits each semester, and then I think 9 credits each summer session, and just knocked it out. And because I knew I wasn't gonna be the kid or I wasn't gonna be the athlete to go back to school right after I was done. I was just gonna be trying to move on in life. So that's why I just wanted to knock it out in 3.5 years, and thankfully for the support from the academic advisors at Penn State, and especially and also at Oklahoma, because even when I transferred, they had to transfer credits and whatnot, so they were able to allow me to get that done.
Wow. To have the perspective, the mentality that you had back in college, that's pretty remarkable, especially as a student athlete, especially in the football athletic arena. So yeah, congratulations on that. That's pretty remarkable. So I like to start from the beginning, Justin. Let us know about how, growing up was for you, where you grew up. I mentioned briefly, but tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, perfect. So I grew up, born in Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. Shortly after I was born, my parents and my 2 older brothers, we all moved to Wilmington, Delaware, and that's where I was raised. Right, so I don't necessarily say I'm from Philly, or I say I'm from Delaware. Right, so grew up in a 2-parent background household. Two a faith background in our family. 2 authoritative parents, and like I said, they were Philly, so they really didn't play too much. But pretty much grew up, couldn't complain about anything. Right, everything was provided. My parents were, they set the standard as far as working hard. They always worked hard. They had expectations for us, but at the same time, they allowed us, my brothers, to be able to choose what we wanted to do. And I was the one that fell in love with sports at an early age. And fell in love with discipline, at the age of 5 years old, running around the neighborhood with trash bags on to try to cut weight to make weight on Sundays. And it was just something, that discipline and being an athlete, it was something that really just intrigued me, and really just just pretty much just directed the course of my life at an early age. Right, so I grew up with 2, like I said, with 2 older brothers that were athletic. Being the youngest of 3, always kind of left a chip on my shoulder. So, and it was a lot of sibling rivalry definitely growing on, at least until we all got to the age of 18. So, very competitive. And it was great. Growing up in a small town in Wilmington, it's a blue collar town. A lot of people were working hard and just trying to, just make a good ends for themselves. So just growing up in that background and having ties from, parents that were able to work hard to get themselves out of a situation, to kind of better the lives of me and my brothers, really just, it just really motivated me to just try to be like them, right? Work hard from the moment the sun comes up to the sun comes down, and not really try to complain, but just make things work, right? So that's pretty much what allowed me to really just find my path in athletics, and it was able to, provide me a pretty good lifestyle for a good part of my life.
When did you know that you wanted to play for the NFL?
Oh man, I would say like I say 5, 6 years old. And my parents, all my family are Eagles fans, right? I'm the only Falcons fan.
What?
Because,
You're a Falcons fan?
Falcons fan.
We gotta
Yeah.
talk. Bless your heart. Sorry
Yeah,
about
I was a big Mike Vick fan growing up. So once he came out of VTech, and the Eagles had lost to Tampa Bay back in like the early 2000s in the NFC Championship.
yes.
I was done with him, and I went right home to Atlanta. So yeah, so that's pretty much what growing up around Eagles fans, and just having a passion for sports. It was just at first it was a dream, right? It was just being exposed. My cousin, I had been exposed to my cousin who had played in Minnesota, and I believe he played for the Minnesota Vikings. And I remember going down south where my grandparents were, and I believe he was dating one of my cousins, right, at the time. And so just seeing and meeting an NFL football player was just like mind blowing for me as a kid. So I always wanted to be like be an NFL football player. So I did the things that a lot of kids would do, right? Playing the little league games and always working out and, being active, and just really trying to, strive for that sport, just like any other kid with that dream, right? But
Mhm.
it was just, honestly, it was a blessing. It was a blessing because I never look at it and think that I was so special of a kid, because I know that there were a lot of kids that I grew up with, whether they were older or younger, that were, not if not as talented, more talented than me, right? But
Mhm.
I just really lean on the fact that my parents, well, God first, and then the fact that I had parents, right, that were, pretty much on me and made sure that I was going to stay on the right narrow path. So it was fortunate enough to just kind of stay and hit that path. And of course, God was pretty much the one that really dictated the course.
Amen. So led you to Penn State. Why Penn State?
So why Penn State? Great question. Well, Penn State was one of the schools that showed the most interest. I was being recruited at, like, since my sophomore year heavily. It was a lot of schools that were, throwing out offers and, saying they were interested. But, and I say this all the time, you really, when you go through the recruiting process, you get to weed out, the schools that are, semi-interested, and then the schools that are really going to, fight for you until you commit to them, even if it's after signing day. So it came down to Penn State, Rutgers, and Oregon. And, those were the three schools that were writing me handwritten letters, everybody on the staff writing me handwritten letters, calling my mom, calling my dad, just showing a lot of support, showing a lot of interest. And they were one of the schools that just didn't pressure me. They told me that I could, commit whenever I felt comfortable. Joe told me I could commit whenever I felt comfortable. So that meant a lot to me. Of course, it was close to home. Everybody in the Philadelphia and Delaware area, a lot of Penn State fans. So that was definitely, that was a plus. It was close to home. I had the opportunity again to play early. They had three starting wide receivers leaving as I was coming in as a freshman. So it was a great opportunity to get playing time early. And of course, you talk about the, Penn State. It's everyone knows Penn State's a worldwide university with a lot of connections and, a lot of connections that I'm thankful for even now in this part of my life, and graduating with that degree and just having that exposure and, going to class with a lot of, now, business owners and executives. It was just, it was great, a great experience.
Wow. So I want to kind of backtrack a little bit when you were in high school and just kind of your preparation as far as academics and football. How were you able to balance that to prepare you for Penn State? Forgot to ask that question.
Oh, no, that's a great question.
I got that in there.
Yeah. So
kids to know kind of what the mentality was like for you.
Yeah. So I'll say, so my freshman year, I transferred to Concord High School my sophomore year. Long story short, I wanted to always go to Concord High School since I was about 5 years old, right? Because I had a encounter with my future head coach, Coach K. But I was at the age of 5 years old. I'm playing at the for the local little league team, and during a hot summer day in camp, they're coming off the practice field, and of course, I'm a 5-year-old kid, so these guys are like giants to me, right? And I'm walking onto the practice field, just trying to stay out the way and not get trampled on. And I remember, Coach K just saying, "Hey, kid," and I'm like, "Oh, that's the head coach. He just said hi to me," So I'm like, I want to go play for that coach. It's right up the street. So long story short, my brother had ended up transferring to Concord High School first because I told him to go there because I always told him I was going to go there. And then I ended up following along my sophomore year. Unfortunately, fortunately, we were able to win a state championship when I first got there. But of course, being young, being 15, 16 years old, and you growing up watching sports and Varsity Blues, movies like The Program, Varsity Blues, and you start to think, well, I'm in high school. I just want to state championship as a 15-year-old. I just got pretty much my first scholarship offered that same year. And I didn't really think I needed sports. I mean, I didn't think I needed, grades at that time, right? So I'm on the basketball team, and next thing I know, my GPA was at a 1.8, right? And so I'm yanked off the team, and immediately, I had some real conversations with my parents, real conversations with my trainers, and people that saw that pathway for me. And they said, "Hey, you're a good kid, right? You don't get in trouble, right? But you have to focus on your academics, because if not, you're going to be just like the rest of a lot of great athletes that come through Delaware, right? And a lot of people don't make it out of Delaware in athletics, and there's not a lot of opportunities, right? So it was a situation to where I was like, okay, I don't want to be in Delaware, past 18. I want to be able, if I have the opportunity to get out, I want to be able to get out. And fortunately, I was able to, with the help of my trainers, with the help of course, a lot of the teachers at Concord High School that are still there, they were able to tutor me, and they were able to really, help me, make honor roll for the next, 2.5 years in a row, and really and raise my GPA high enough to be able to qualify for an athletic scholarship. So honestly, it was, of course, God, but my parents, my trainers, and then of course the phenomenal staff at Concord High School that just continue to push me and encourage me and support me, in trying to make sure that I could qualify to be able to go play at the next level.
Nice, nice. You also had the opportunity of playing at another, well, what we call world-renowned college team as well, right? OKC.
Yeah,
Tell us
absolutely,
about
absolutely. Yep.
that. Yeah.
So going into my junior year, going into my senior year, there was, of course, there was a scandal right at Penn State. Of course, a lot of innocent lives were touched, and it was a situation. But out on the backside of that situation, it presented an opportunity for people to be able to, leave the university and go play right away. Right now, a lot of people in my recruiting class, they knew that I had already had some reservations about the university, as far as when it came to the football, right? So, but I wasn't one of those athletes to, make a big deal if I wasn't necessarily happy with how the athletics was going. I made sure I still went to class. I made sure I still did what I needed to do. Wasn't a problem off the field, but I wanted to kind of get a little bit more out of the football experience, and not being able to transfer at that moment in time when I was at Penn State, not being allowed to, I was presented an opportunity with that scandal to be able to leave. So upon my teammates' blessings, right, I really, I spoke to a lot of the players that I had came in with, and they pretty much were like, hey, we understand it's a business, right? And I think a lot of times when you're young, right, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you don't realize that it's a business, and you get so emotionally attached, and you really have to understand and prepare yourself going in that it's a business. You can't think about, all the time, well, how are they going to feel? You have to think about what's going to be best for you and your family, but with understanding that, you do grow a brotherhood with those players. But, I was able to then transfer to the University of Oklahoma a week into training camp. And it was a whirlwind, man. I think it was about 6 to 8 months that I was there. And from, sleeping in the locker room my first, week and a half there, just to get, adjusted to the system, and watching film, and then going to sleep right downstairs in the locker room, and being the first person in, because I never left the building. Right. So just having that mentality is what I believe not only earned the respect of my new players, which was important, right? Going in my senior year, new team, new place, middle of the country, that was important to me, right? So to earn the respect of my teammates, earning the respect of my coaches, and then at the end of the day, producing, right, and having a better season in one season than I did in all three combined at Penn State, right? So I think that was what really just opened my eyes, and that's when I realized how important exposure and opportunities were, especially at the college level.
Yeah, I actually recall seeing some of your interviews when you actually transferred to Oklahoma, and you rocked it out that year. Rocked it out.
Yeah.
And, go ahead, please.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it was a great opportunity. Going down there, I was a little bit like, hey, they literally said, hey, when you come down here, you're experienced. They had, I think they only had one returning receiver at the time, Kenny Stills, who Kenny Stills, who played for Houston, and everyone else was leaving, right? So I was able to plug right in, and I literally remember Coach Stoops said, hey, you're probably gonna catch about 70 balls, and you're gonna probably have close to 1,000 yards, right? Sure enough, I go down there, I catch 70 something balls, have pretty close to 1,000 yards, and then at the same time, I also did well punt return. I think I was like top 5 or top 7 as far as what punt return average. And I was able to score a touchdown, which I never did at Penn State.
I saw that. I saw that. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it was just a phenomenal year. It was a whirlwind. I don't wish that anything kind of went back, because everything works out the way it's supposed to. But, it was one of those situations where when I left, I was like, man, I wish I had like at least one more year. Right. But it was great. I was able to make great relationships that I still follow up on today. And I was able to just, again, get exposed. Right. That was the only time I was going to be out in the Midwest, right. So different part of the country, different town, great people, and great exposure.
Yeah, exactly. So here comes the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So did you think that this was the team that you were going to play for? Or
Um, so
how did
in
you get
pre,
the notice?
yeah, so in pre-draft, I didn't get invited to the combine, right? So at
Mhm.
first, a lot of agents they thought I was going to be invited to the combine, or the Senior Bowl, and they were kind of talking to me, but then once I didn't get invited, I didn't have really any agents. I didn't have really as much attention, and I didn't necessarily get the draft projection that I expected. So, you know, once I did find an agent that was able to, that believed in me, I also had gotten an opportunity to have one pre-draft. I did well at my pro day first. I did very well at my pro day. I had put up some pretty good numbers, and I pretty much called everything thrown. And at the same time, it was good because Landry Jones was my quarterback, and he had all the scouts there, right?
Yeah.
So again, great exposure. And one of the Mean Joe Green was, I remember Mean Joe Green was one of the scouts for the Steelers, right? And like I was just like, I just remember looking, I'm like, well, that's Mean Joe Green, right? So, but then sure enough, the Steelers was the only team that actually brought me in for a visit, right? So they brought me in for a visit. You know, of course I loved it. You know, met with Mike Tomlin. I met with the offensive coordinator Todd Haley at the time. You know, met the Rooney family, and just they just interviewed me, right? And so I still at that time I was just like, okay, you know, I got an interview. It was one team, that's fine. But I didn't necessarily think I was going to be, drafted that high, right? And draft day comes, and I'll never forget. I'm in I'm at my apartment, right outside of Philly. I'm just training, and I didn't even want to watch the draft, right? Because I'm just like, me being I'm just, that's how I am. Like I don't want to watch it, and especially not knowing if I'm gonna get drafted. So I remember going out, getting a bite to eat, coming back, and then I'm at my apartment, and I remember getting a phone call from the Cowboys, and then the Cowboys were just like, it was later rounds, right? Later rounds. And they were like, hey, we might be thinking about taking you. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, if not, we'll take you free agent. I'm like, all right, cool, fine. And then the Steelers had called me, and they said, hey, they said, hey, did the Cowboys take you? Or did you know what I mean? Are they thinking about taking you? I'm like, no. And they were like, okay, we're about to take you. Stay on the phone. And then so I'm like, okay, am I about to get drafted? And then next thing you know, Mike Tomlin picks up the phone. Hey, Justin, man, congrats. We're excited to have you. We're about to draft you as the 186th pick in the 6th round. So now I'm just like, okay, is this really happening? And then I see my name come up on the screen. So I'm like, okay, this is really happening. And then my phone starts blowing up as I'm on the phone with the Rooney family and with Coach Tomlin, and it was just like one of those moments that you'll never forget. Like you said, going back to 5 years old, and a lot of different things that might have happened and challenges with my family or just with certain different circumstances, and finally transferring from schools, and a lot of different things that could have happened, and just be able to be able to say that I was drafted, is really a testament and really just a grateful moment that I'm thankful for God.
Wow, that's amazing. That's truly amazing. You had actually a privilege of playing with Antonio Brown as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of cool with him. What was it like playing for Mike?
Oh man, I mean, a man of character, a great leader of men, I mean, and everything that you hear about him is true. He's going to relate with you. He's going to walk in the locker room and just literally hang out and crack jokes. And at the same time, he's going to say, okay, it's 10 minutes before pre-practice kick and get out on the field. Right. And he was honest, which is especially in the NFL, it's not always common to find people that are going to just tell you what it is, right or wrong. But that's what you want, right? Especially as an athlete, you don't want someone to tell you you're doing great and the next day you get cut, right? So he's going to let you know in the meeting room, hey, you need to pick up your slack, because if not, you're not going to be around in front of everybody. But then when you go back out and you produce the next day on practice floor on the game field, he's going to say, hey, man, he's going to highlight you. Hey, that's how you're supposed to practice. That's the standard. So I think a lot of those principles, a lot of that exposure being there, right? Exposure is big with me. So being exposed to that and seeing how, people at a high level execute, right? Teamwork, just seeing, how to strategize and the hours they put in is just something that I take with me, and I take to everything that I do today.
I love that, because you learn a lot from what you're good at, but you also recognize that that's not all you are.
Absolutely.
And so that's great that you've actually taken that, and tomorrow's a big day for you. Can we talk about what's happening tomorrow?
Absolutely. So tomorrow absolutely, yeah. So tomorrow is actually when I'm launching my book, the Dive Playbook. And the Dive Playbook for me is really, it just really stresses for student athletes or leaders of student athletes to really, allow student athletes to understand who they are outside of the game, right? Outside of the sport, the field, court, or ice. And really Dive stands for defining who you are, right? Investing in yourself academically, first and foremost, and then physically, or in any areas of your life where you feel like you need to invest. And then adding value, right, with the talents that are most, that come natural to you, and adding value to your team, to the classroom, to your community, to your family. And then, at the end of the day, making sure that you execute on all your goals and dreams by staying true to yourself, authentic to yourself, by either having systems in place and having schedules and being disciplined, or by building a team, right? Building a team that is going to continue to cover your blind spots and continue to focus, stay on that straight and narrow path. Just like when I was in back at high school, when like I said, the people that allowed me to execute were my parents, the teachers, in that community at Conquer High. So that's when I think about executing, is just building that team, especially if it's something to where you're having struggles with overcoming. You need a team, you need a system, you need that support system to help you go ahead and execute. So that's what the Dive Playbook stands for. It's the principle that I believe that will help student athletes not only understand and discover how they are as athletes, but more importantly as people, right? Because then when you transition, when you transition, whether it's from high school to college, or college to the pros, or pros out, you'll be able to have a really firm base in who you are.
Amen. I love that. I love that. Dive, define, invest, execute, or value and execute. So at what point would you say during your career or post-career did you define who you were?
Yeah, I would definitely say I had to redefine who I was, definitely in my post-career, right? So like you mentioned earlier, after, breaking my foot in Buffalo, and then rehabbing and trying to work back to get back in the league. That's it's called Not for Long. And then having another season come up and then tearing my quad, and then being out already for that season, and then getting an opportunity to go play across the border in Canada with the hopes to just get film to come back into the league, right? Which is what players do. Then tearing my psoas, right? All on the right side of my body, right? So 3 season-ending injuries in a row. I had never had a game missing injury or practice missing injury really in my life. And so that's what had me really have to redefine who I was, right? I get back home, and I remember I remember my brother picking me up, from the airport, and my body just hurting really bad, like everything on the right side of my body. And just understanding like, wow, is this it? And then, I was actually just talking to another athlete, right, that has played in the NFL, and he was like, hey man, people don't understand that, you always kind of have that mindset, I'm gonna get another call, I'm gonna stay in shape, I'm gonna get another call. But once those calls don't come in, especially with me, I couldn't even walk up and down the stairs anymore. So my body had pretty much said, I don't care, what you're thinking about. It's pretty much all these, since 5 years old, we're done. So when you're that young and you're like, I can't even move, like I can't even jog, I can't even run, I have to now do PT 2 to 3 times a week just to, kind of keep everything together. That does something to your mind, right? That makes you feel, and you're supposed to be the big bad athlete, right? And that does something to you. So I had to go through my go-through, right? Like I said, depression, fear, anxiety, just not even knowing what I was going to do, right? Not wanting to get out the bed, only getting out of the bed when my family members would come over just to act like I was up and doing something. And then, just struggling, so, but like I said, fortunate enough, being exposed to that local business owner who was also a Steelers fan, who was like, oh yeah, I'll take you under my wing. But he also noticed like, man, he's going through something, and he was like, hey, I can, you can use the same methods, the same practices that you use to get to the NFL in whatever you want to do in life. He didn't even want me to get into business or anything. He just said, whatever you want to do, use the same methods. And he said, I guarantee you'll have more success, just because he already knew that the fact that I gotten exposed to that, the mindset, and the different challenges I had to overcome, he already knew that I was going to be able to do, whatever I wanted to do, just because of that mindset. But I couldn't necessarily see it in myself. So that's why I always tell people that sometimes you have to really believe in what people see you, even though if you can't see it in yourself. Because, a lot of people, they have already been where you've been, or they know somebody, or they just have that eye that, what, you're going to get past it. So that's what I always try to tell, especially athletes and coaches. to always just, always speak life, but at the same time, especially for athletes, you sometimes, especially if it's somebody that's a mentor or somebody that has been where you've gone, you have to believe in what they're saying, right? Even if you're not even confident at that moment, right? You have to just, I'm gonna believe what that trainer or what that coach or what that teacher said to me, and I'm gonna run with it.
Yeah, sounds like you had that belief at a very young age, and that's what's helped you to believe along the way,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Because I deal with different athletes, and that belief can be blocked along their journey at different points.
Oh yeah.
But for those who I see, at a younger age, when they start having that belief, and maybe it's still in them, or they may actually come across a moment in their life where someone believed in them and gave them hope, and they believed, and that allowed them to kind of see different perspectives, because you have to be open in order to see someone's faith and belief in you.
Yep.
So, and so that's awesome that, that person was there for you, Justin. And it leads me to my next question, which I have an idea, the investment part. Person invested in you, believed in you, and so you chose to invest in others. Is that when the investment started for you?
Absolutely. So what I used to do is once and his name's 𝘄𝘄𝘄𝗏. So once he invested into me, I then immediately went to just trying to go and trying to say, okay, just trying to do things right. Honestly, I was about to start helping out coaching just to get out the house. My brother actually put me on to an opportunity to coach. I'm at the local high school. So I just started coaching, just going out and helping out. But and it was good to get back around the game, but still it was like, always hearing those questions, right? Hey, you're getting back into the league, and me knowing I'm done. And it's like that's what people kind of identify you as. But then that led into me getting an opportunity to sub-teach, right? Which was an experience in itself. Because a lot of the schools, I didn't go to that high school at the time, but a lot of the school systems and I guess even the community had gotten worse, right, from when I had left, and literally was no hope, right, no hope. And I remember just a kid walking off the football field and he's like, man, like I don't even think I can't go to the league. And I'm like, why can't you go to the league? Like I went to the league. I'm from Delaware. Like I know so many different people from Delaware, and that can fill up both hands and feet that went to the league. And it's just like, that's when I realized, okay, there's no hope. Like kids don't have no hope around here. And so once I took that substitute teaching position, that's one of the things that I wanted to just instill kids. Like even the toughest kids that probably had a lot of different out of school issues, some serious issues, I would pull them aside. Or at first they would probably, try to act tough or challenge me, right? But then when it was in a one-on-one and they came into the room and we just chopped it up, then as you get to know them, and you would try to just give them hope, like just saying, oh, well, just try to expose them to what are you reading? Oh, I'm reading this book, about mindset, right? Or I'm reading this book about investments. I'm reading this book about this. Well, what's that? Oh, well, this will help you whenever you want to, the same things that you're wanting to do that might not necessarily be best for you outside of school. You can apply that same hustle and try and do something that's legal, and it can continue to give you opportunities, right? So just seeing how, and at the same time, and I didn't go into the school telling everybody I played for NFL, right? But then once word started getting around, and then those same kids that would probably give you a hard time, and they found out that you played in the league, now they won't even want, now they just want to talk your head off, right? So now, right, so then I started to realize, even when I don't even want to like let people know that I play in the league, that's a big deal, right? People look up to that, and people are going to gravitate towards it. So just being able to just be that beacon of light for a short amount of time. I only was at that high school for about a year, and within that year, I was credit recovery teacher. I was like almost a disciplinarian. I was hallway monitor. I was a theater teacher, everything. So I was just filling in where I could. But at the same time, I was, it was good to kind of be in an environment where I felt like it was a team. And it was great to be, being able with the youth where I'm like, okay, I can actually impact, on the youth, with my story and my background.
Hey, man, I want to mention what one of my friends said earlier. You need a team. You need a team in order to be well accomplished. It's interesting that we're often identified as what we do. And even kids see that. And a lot of them, it prevents them from opening up, where they're from, what they did, their behavior, that's how they're identified. But you brought up a great point, and I loved your approach. As you gain to know who they were, especially one-on-one, people, even those that have that hardcore, mask on, they will definitely eventually, they don't care who you are. You're just giving them the attention that anyone or any kid would want.
Right.
And they would easily start to open up to you. easily.
Absolutely.
And it makes it even better if they know that, you are actually who they want to become, even if it's for because they love playing football, or if it's because of they want to get out where they're from, or, whatever reason.
Mhm.
It just allows them to have even a greater appreciation. But I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's important for kids to understand. We want to get to know who you are, not what you do,
Right.
especially at a young age.
Right. Especially
Yeah.
in today's world, right? Because it's like everything is what you do. Everything is what you do, from what you see on social media to how you dress, right? So, but it takes, like you said, it takes time to really understand who somebody is, right? And really, judge them off of that.
Yes, exactly. At what point during your career or post your career did you find you had to add value?
I think it was around the time to where I think it was around the same time where I was at, that high school. Just understanding that, okay, because I used to, like you said, after getting out of the league, I just didn't think that I was worth much anymore, right? I didn't, the things that everybody used to scream and, text and, tag me into, right? It was no more, there were no more moments for that. So, but then once I realized, okay, now post career, people still want to know my story. People still want to know my experiences. People still want to know the mindset, or, how was it with being in the room with Mike Tomlin? And these are like business owners. Hey, I'll meet you at, Eric's restaurant. I want to talk about, the different skills, the different qualities that Mike Tomlin has. And I want to talk about, the leadership. What were the things that he would say? And I'm just like, okay, he runs 4 or 5 different businesses, and he's sitting here wanting to get my advice on, leadership. So that's when I realized, okay, so then I start to really go into, and I'm an introvert, so I like to think and I really digest a lot about my experiences, things like that, of that nature. So then I'm starting to think about, okay, Penn State, what were the different things and qualities about that program, that organization, right? Oklahoma, what were the different qualities about that organization? Pittsburgh, Buffalo, right? So all these different top level, high level organizations, right, that produce at a high level, right, year in and year out. There's qualities in that, and then you learn that, then you start to get more exposure, and you're realizing that they're bringing people in to come speak to these top Fortune 500 that are athletes that have been exposed or former coaches. So then I started to realize, okay, so there's value in my experience, right? So then that's when I started to continue to just self-discover, just to continue to try to read, get exposed, going to conferences, equipping myself with tools and to be able to present or be able to speak. So something that naturally didn't necessarily come easy to me, right? So kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone and just continuing to work at it allowed me to say, okay, I can use my message to go speak and go connect with kids that I probably would have, but if I not gotten injured, probably would have never spoken to, right? I probably would have just been continue to play, and I would have just probably just stacked my money up and just sat up and said, I'm fine, right? I got 2 or 3 contracts under my belt. I'll just chill out and just ride into the sunset. But thankfully, God had another call from my life and said, I'm going to use, this situation that you went through to help prepare, the youth to make sure that they understand that this can happen to you in the blink of an eye. So you need to know who you can be, and you need to know who you are in order to kind of get through those circumstances when they come, because they're going to come.
Amen. And I love how you focus on while you're in it and after the fact. After the fact. That's so important. That's often missed. What happens after? Yes. And at what point did you have to execute how you defined, how you've invested, how you valued? How did you execute all of these things?
It was a team, right? It was a team. So like I said, I got exposed to, I went to a conference, 1% conference in Dallas with 𝘄𝘄𝘄𝘗 and Associates, right? So, and that's when I had gotten introduced to the disc school that we had spoken about before. And that's when it had hit me that, okay, and that's when I remember speaking to him and saying, hey, I want to be able to, pour into the lives of athletes, right? And help them understand who they are. And that's when everything connected. Okay, well then the disc. And I'm like, okay, well, this is how I've known that I've kind of had these tendencies and these preferences, but nobody actually like lined it out and really spelled it out for me. So once that happened, that's when everything connected, right? That's when the thoughts of, okay, using my message, turning it into a story, getting a team, having a plan, having a vision, writing certain things out every single day, and then literally watching it come into fruition, right? So that's kind of how executing. And again, and even it's a everyday process. That's why I always tell my athletes, like, define who you are, invest in yourself, adding value, and execute. You should be able to do those small steps every single day. And if you're doing that every single day, right? If you're setting out the day, this is what I have to get done, right? Okay, this is what I'm working into what I need to do. However, I have to work at it. and then finding time, whatever it is, to add value to somebody else's life, whether it's holding the door, whether it's, calling someone that you haven't spoken to or somebody that looks up to you, and then at the end of the day, whatever it is you have to finish for that day, execute, right? Making sure that you're not just, procrastinating, making sure you're not wasting time, because there's a lot of things that will distract, especially the youth, right? There's a lot of things that will distract them, that if they don't have the systems in place, and if they don't have a team that's covering their blind spots, it's going to be a lot harder for them to execute. And every single day that you procrastinate, you're going further and further away from your dreams.
I love how you made it portable. Everyone doesn't think of this in a certain cookie cutter approach. And so you've made it portable to where they can understand and execute it in simple steps.
Yep.
And that's what it's about. And made it, like, again, portable. So it's not just in what you play and what you do, but it's also in life and how you value others. And the giving part, I always focus on that. The giving part is so important. What you give to others, it will come back to you tenfold. It's all about the art of giving, which the Bible teaches us to do anyway. But when you give, all of those things come back. I love it.
Absolutely. And I think it made it easier for me was, like I said, I had two parents in the background, right? So that's a blessing in itself, right? And not even understanding that. And then at the same time, I had two trainers that gave without even asking for anything. They didn't ask for any money. They didn't ask for anything. They would drop me off at my house. They literally spent 6 days out of the week with me, 2 to 3 hours for at least 2.5 years, and didn't ask my parents for anything. Didn't ask for nothing, right? So that's why when I came back, I got plugged right back into the same system that helped me so that I could help other athletes. And it's like, and so now it's like we're building out mentorship programs, which we didn't have, right? So I'm like, we need to build up, and so we came together and said, let's build out a mentorship program so that we can teach these small skills so that they're more prepared than we were, when I went to school. Because when I went to school, it was just lift weights, run. You're going to get those, we would like to say Martin Luther King speeches every single now and then, especially when we were acting up, where they found out we weren't in class and whatnot. But it wasn't, it was more so it was organic, and it was like, groundbreaking, so, but now that it's been around, and we have a lot of people that came through that program that have actually gotten exposed, been to the NFL. A lot of them are in the book that I speak about. Like I speak about the fact that, the same people that I was training, like it was no mistake that the same people that I was training with, right? Leon Mackey, Jerome Smith, Lewis Toller, all these different people that I trained with. It was by no mistake that 5 years later, we're all in the NFL. Like Lewis Toller, right? I remember doing one-on-one drills with him in the winter of probably 2009, 2008. And, just going at it, one-on-ones. We never played each other in the season, but I knew he was a top D-back, and he knew I was one of the top wide receivers in the state. And we just wanted to go out, no cameras, no none of that. And for about an hour, and that type of mentality, that type of work ethic allowed us to continue to work with each other throughout the years of us getting recruited. And then, the way God works, here we are now playing for the Steelers, both of us on the same team in the Steelers, right? It all started in little old Wilmington, Delaware, at a one-on-one competition that led into, a competitive rivalry that we just continue to work and push each other in the weight room and on the field. And then he went to a different school. He went to Western Michigan and Rutgers, and I went to Penn State and Oklahoma. And then here we are both playing on the Steelers. So I always use those examples of the people that I played with. Paul Warlow, I went to high school with him. Played with him at high school. He ended up playing for the Falcons. He came through the same program. So it's just like, and all from a small state. That's why I tell kids all the time, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you find a community that has a system, right, and has people that have either went there themselves or have already been exposed to it, you need to stay into that community every single day and, do what those people tell you to do, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much time it's going to take you from the things that you think are important, right? And you're gonna end up being exactly where you wanted to go.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Coincidence is God's doing. And as Charles says, it's all about alignment.
Absolutely.
And it's so important it's so important for kids and adults to understand that, don't burn your bridges. It's important that as you journey through life, take what you can receive, give what you can, and also carry people with you, and keep those sustainable relationships. They can be important, right?
Yeah.
Along the journey. It's so important to recognize that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm learning more and more, Dawn. Like it's relationships. Like you just said, don't burn your bridges. even if it's not a situation that might have been, even with teachers, like I know, even remember thinking about the teachers, and it's like I never even burned a bridge with the teacher. I was always trying to be respectful, because you never know, and now I'm thankful for that, because now I'm in a situation where I had to come back home, right? And I needed certain people to say, vouch for me, oh, he's a great kid. No, he's a great young man. I remember when we was in high school. Yes, give him that opportunity. Let him work with those kids. Just off of the character that they remember me from high school. They might not have followed me since the day after high school, but they remember that character. So that's why I always tell kids, like, especially in high school, before you cuss that teacher out, you got to think, you might need that teacher, right? You might need it. You might need that teacher. That you might not know what other businesses that teacher might be in, right? And you might not understand, the people that teacher knows that you might need at the end of the day. So I'm always big on just being respectful, and even if you're not, even if you don't see eye to eye, just making sure you maintain that relationship.
Amen. Amen. Let's talk about DISC. I love that I was so honored that you asked me to participate in DISC. Can you let the audience know what DISC is?
Absolutely. So the DISC tool is a tool that was, pretty much founded in the late 1920s by a man named William Marston. And, he was very accredited, went to Harvard, and really was just curious about the behavioral style of humans, right? So him and Walter Clark later ended up putting together an assessment, right? They also put together the polygraph test, right? So I always tell the people, once I say that, people are like, oh, okay, they were legit. They knew what they were doing, right? This is something that people still use today to figure out, hey, you telling the truth, you telling a lie. So what I like about it is that they wanted to get down to behaviors and why people were doing what they were doing. And me, just knowing myself, I'm a black and white type of person, right? I don't like gray, but I understand that sometimes it happens. But the tool really allows you to understand, your natural talents, your strengths, right? Some of your limitations, and it really allows you to be so authentic to yourself, right? Being authentic and being self-aware, right? That's probably one of the two key aspects about the DISC is being authentic to yourself and who you are, right? And then being self-aware. And being self-aware more so, and understanding and knowing yourself so that you can understand how to relate and how to interact with others, right? Understanding, okay, this is the environment that's best for me, whether it's being around people or whether it's being in an acquired environment, right? Or understanding, okay, I'm a person that likes to make a lot of decisions, or I'm just a person that, likes a lot of systems. I like a lot of structure, right? So by understanding that, I believe, especially as young as you can, understand that, it allows you to understand, the opportunities that you have outside of your sport. And with student athletes, athletes in general, sometimes you get pushed down this pigeonhole that you're training every single day since 5. You're really becoming just an athlete, and you don't have enough time to even think about certain other things. But when you get introduced to a tool like the DISC assessment, it automatically opens your mind up to the different possibilities that you can do outside of athletics. So once I took my assessment, I study it every day till this day, right? And I just really digest it. And people that are around me that are close to me have taken it, and so that's where. And honestly, I think that it allows me. And I was just talking to somebody. I told them I think it's a cheat code, because it allows you to interact, and it allows you to give you the tools to be able to interact with any type of person, right? And even if you can't pinpoint the person, but within the first couple of minutes of the person speaking to me, I can kind of already tell their pace. Right, I can already kind of tell, whether they're extroverted or introverted, right? And that way now it's not about me, taking advantage of that, but being responsible and saying, okay, I'm going to speak to their language, right? So if you're someone that is, very fast paced, I'm not going to give you a lot of details, even though that's something that I like to do. I need all the details. But if you're fast paced, you're going to shut me off as soon as I give you more than 5 things, right? Or if you're someone that needs is more people oriented, I'm going to try to show up and be as much people oriented as I can, because I know you're going to thrive off that energy, right? And then at the same time, if you're someone that is just consistent, I know I might have to slow things down and really be more methodical with you. And then if you're someone that's like me, right, that is literally so systematic, so structured, right? Now I can overwhelm you with the data, and you're gonna eat it all up. So I think that by just being able to know that there are really 4 different types of human beings, right? Depending on, and of course fluctuates with the different ways that you can have, have a different have a lot of different, some you can be extroverted and introverted in some ways, both, but it allows you to really be able to communicate better. It allows you to be able to really have better conflict management, allows you to better control environments. So especially when you're talking about organization, you're talking about team building, right? You're talking about communicating. Like, that's a tool that I feel like every organization would benefit from.
Yes. And every individual in that organization as well.
Absolutely.
And we can start in elementary, middle school, right?
Absolutely.
We can start early on and teaching our
Absolutely.
kids, right? And understanding their personalities, how they communicate, what type of behaviors they exhibit, and teach them early on so that they just don't see themselves, especially those who are interested in athletics, as just an athlete, but they actually
Absolutely.
have a plan throughout their journey.
Absolutely. And there's a so, and like my coach, right? My coach, Dr. Eric Thomas, he is the one that published a book called "You're Not the Boss of Me." Literally,
Mhm.
the book it pretty much has the disc in it, but it's for elementary kid, right?
Yes.
And it's a short read, it's a lot of pictures, and it speaks to that kid that's in the classroom that the teacher said is out of control. They can't be quiet, right?
Mhm.
They're always over the place. And instead of calling that kid and sending that kid out of the classroom, maybe that kid just wants more participation in the class. So how about you let that kid hand out papers, or actually for the first 5 minutes of the class, give the what's going on, the itinerary for the class of that day, right? The kid that's super quiet, right, that just likes to write and take a lot of notes, have that kid when there's a class discussion, okay, that's the reporter, right? So now that quiet and maybe the shy kid actually feels involved, right? So it's a lot of different. That's a great book. So that's a shameless plug for that book as well. But it's a great book, and like you were talking about, with youth and getting them introduced to tools like this at a young age. Now it's going back to that exposure piece. When you get exposed to different tools at an early age, you're already now cutting. You're shortening the likelihood of them actually now deviating and going certain ways because they don't know who they are, and nobody's ever told them that. And then the actual gift of even if it's the gift to gab, it's a gift, right? And somebody's telling them that's bad, and now they're thinking, okay, I'm this, I'm that. I'm inadequate because I don't know how to be quiet. When Steve Harvey, he likes to gab, right? Like a lot of people like to gab, and they make a lot of money for it. But a lot of times, especially in today's systems, right? We say, okay, you either fit this mold, and if not, you're no use. And then these are the same kids that end up going out and they're coming to the top entrepreneurs, right? And it's just like, why couldn't that teacher see that, right? And I'm not no shade at teachers, but it's just like sometimes I think you have to step outside the guidelines, especially when you're servicing certain communities, because you just have to kind of you have to kind of try different things to be able to service some people that speak different languages.
Amen. And I think that should be the guideline. I'm glad you created one.
Absolutely.
I'm happy about this. Can we talk a little bit as we close toward the end? Hi, Marsha. Marsha said I'm late. She didn't want to miss it. You can definitely catch this if you came in the middle of our discussion. Please, this will be available for the replay soon after. Please share it with everyone you know. Comment. We want to know where you're from. Ask any questions. If we can't get to them during the live segment, we will definitely respond after. So, Justin, can you talk to us a little bit about, my favorite topic, athletes and mental health? Where do you see them coincide? How has this been important for you? What would you like to share about the connection?
Oh man, it's everything. It's everything. A lot of times, athletes, you're coming up and it's all mental toughness, right? Don't let anybody see you hurt. Don't let anybody see you weak. And, a lot of that, that's good, right? But at the same time, that builds up a lot of stress, right? It can build up a lot of things that you don't even want to tell people about that you're going through because, you have to kind of hold this facade that I can't let the next person get anything up on me. I can't let the coach know that I might be going through something because that might be my starting spot, right? I can't let the coach know that I'm really hurting because a lot of different, a lot of my friends' situations are changing back at home, or my family situation is changing back at home because that could be my starting spot. So I think as you grow, as you continue to, go throughout the different levels and transition throughout different levels, you are affected by a lot of the different challenges that everybody else is affected by, right? The only problem is you still have great expectations to meet, right? You still have to, you have to be able to put on that mask and say, all right, I can't worry about that, right? And I think that as much as that could be a good quality to be able to block out distractions, if it's not healthy and if you're not at least creating a space to where you can go talk about those challenges and be open about them, eventually you're going to pop, right? And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of, especially within the past, I'll say 5 to 10 years, right? You're having a lot of different athletes come out. I just saw something, or a couple of months ago on Kevin Love, right?
Yeah.
So, and famous basketball player. There's a lot of different athletes that are coming out and talking about that mental health, because I think a lot of times people, glorify athletes so much that we think that they're superhumans, right? And, it's just like we're not. We're regular people. We're just gifted in different areas, right? Just like some people might be gifted in singing, we're gifted in running, right? So that person that's a singer still has challenges, right? But so do we. But I think that with the that stigma of an athlete, it makes it even worse, right? Especially when you're talking about Black athletes, right? Now you're talking about you have to be even more tough because you definitely can't let that anything show. So for me, it was just just trying to be strong and even to the point to where, like I said, the thing that I was always able to rely on, that was my safeguard, that was my second sanctuary, right? Was taken away. So then it's just like, when that's gone, now like it was like part of my life was taken away, and I can't get it back, and I can't go backwards, right? I always tell people all the time, if you're playing a violin, if you want to be a piano player, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, you continue to go up. There's no like, okay, 25, no more, you can't be a lawyer anymore. No more being a judge after 30, right? Like, no more being a doctor after 45. You can continue to go up, but in athletics, you start, and it's a short window. As soon as you start to excel, from 6 years old, you're a talent. I don't care how talented you are at 6. By the time you turn 36, 46, it's a wrap, right? And so if you don't, like we talked about, if you don't leverage, if you're not smart, if you're not wise, if you don't have a team, right, that can cover those blind spots and say, all right, you have a problem with spending, let's go ahead and take this portion and put it into this Roth IRA, because just because you don't even know what that's going to do, but I'm going to help you, right? In 10 years, you're going to thank me. Like, if you don't have people like that, or you don't have people to just be in your corner to help your mental health, whether that's the therapist on the team, and it should be more than just one therapist on the team, honestly. And I'll just say that right now.
Thank you. Can you say that again? Louder.
It should be more than one, because honestly, it's not, and I think it's probably being more addressed now, but it was definitely not addressed, especially when I was coming up. I mean, mental health and sports psychologists. If I had to go see a sports psychologist and my team has found out, I was going to get clowned straight up. Like, that wasn't going to be like something good. But now it's encouraged, and that's good, because now I think you're allowed to be able to become a more holistic athlete in today's world, right? You're now able to show more talents that you have as an athlete in today's world. Be more open, connect with your fans, so and tell the fans, hey, or your supporters. I don't like saying fans, but tell your supporters that, hey, I go through the same challenges you go through, right? Like, I have a child too, I struggle with raising my kid, so it's not like, oh, everything's perfect just because you see me for 3 hours once a week. That doing something that is a great thing to do. It's still I still go through mental health issues. I still have challenges like the next person, and I still need to have a coach, right? That's an expert in mental health to coach me through things that I can't see, right? So I believe in getting coached in every area of my life, spiritually, physically, mentally, just so I know that I'm staying pretty much on my P's and Q's in all aspects as much as I can.
I love it. And you all deserve it, because you play in an arena that actually has higher risk than the general population.
Yeah. And you don't think about that.
I mean, seriously, right? I mean, with all the things that you said, that higher risk comes with that.
Yep.
So thank you so much for eloquently voicing your opinion on that. I think that, like you're saying, more athletes are sharing in your opinion. I love to see that, because they are speaking up. They're not waiting anymore. They're actually moving that needle forward and getting the help that they need for them and their teammates and their coaches and the resources to let them learn how this works. So
because I mean, you hear the stories, right? I mean, and it's like, I play with teammates that I still to this day, you hear stories, of just struggles, right? Whether it's from injuries, whether it's from, just mismanagement of money or funds and resources, or just, a few wrong decisions that now have them upside down in life, right? And like I tell people all the time, man, it doesn't, whether you're a first round pick or you're still gonna have those struggles. Just when people say more money, more problems, and more new levels, new devils. That's real. It's not like it gets easier. It's just more responsibility, right? And it looks a lot more attractive, but it's a lot more pressure. And if you don't have that mental health, you're going to crack. And we see that in athletes every day. And that's why I feel like, especially when I see stories about people that I play with, or people that I know, it's just like, it's like, man, it's tough, because that it can be helped. But a lot of times it's just, the stigma, and I get it, right? I get it, because I was there, but it takes, trust me, whether God or life, you're going to need it, right? You're going to need it if you want to continue to survive and really play the long game.
Amen. Amen. Is there anything that you would have done different based upon what you know now about transitioning outside the sport?
I would have prepared. Well, if I would have done something different, right, I would have probably prepared a little bit more and understanding who I was, right? So I think just getting exposed, to different things earlier in high school. Like one thing that I talk about is being exposed to, it was called a 𝘄𝘄𝘄 community, right? And I think it was more so, it was like entrepreneurship. And I got a friend at the time, she had challenged me. She was like, you pretty much can't do anything outside of athletics. And I was like, okay, what is it that you think I can't do? And she was like, well, try to join the 𝘄𝘄𝘄 team. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing the 𝘄𝘄𝘄 team? Oh, well, you have to, pretty much try to pursue like entrepreneurial type of challenges and pretty much show that you can put together a plan or help solve a problem. So I was like, fine. So I got into the organization. Now I'm scared because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something that's serious outside of athletics and competing in state level, and and just being exposed in that environment and going to states and competing. And I still remember it was like my topic was, what would you do to help attract more clients to like a local theme park? And I got after in front of the judges stating how my plan and whatnot, literally just going off the top of my head, right? And I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go off and give it the best that I know that I would do. And they were like, oh, congratulations. And then they were like, you made it to states. And then they were like, okay, well, you made it to nationals. And now I'm like, wait a second. I don't even like, this is 𝘄𝘄𝘄 entrepreneurship, and I'm 18 years old. I was just trying this out to kind of compete. Like, okay, what do you think I can't do something? And just that experience to go to nationals, going to Anaheim, California, and not for athletics. I was going because of my mind and my strategy on building an amusement park and the way that I think that I could increase sales. And just literally just going off the top of my head, it gave me an opportunity to get exposed to go to Anaheim, California, and compete nationally, right, with now the top greatest minds of high school of students, right? And so that gave me that confidence that I lean on today. So when I was going through my it was like, wait a second, you can do certain things outside of athletics because you did it before. So when you go and you can lean on those experiences where you got exposed to outside of athletics, that I think that's what helps prepare you better for those transitions. So now when you see athletes that are using branding at an earlier age, right? They're already preparing themselves for that transition without even thinking about it, if they're doing it correctly, right? So I think that one thing that athletes should be doing at an early age is understanding the power of their brand and understanding exposure and getting exposed to things outside of athletics and finding out who they are outside of athletics so they can know what to expose themselves to. Does that make sense?
It does. 100%. 100%. This was awesome. This is awesome. So we're ending. I promise you. I know I said that 5 questions ago. Can you tell us what you do today? You're the president of your own organization, right?
Yep.
Yes. Or what are some of the things you do today? Is there anything that you want to share and add? And yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm the president of Value Solutions. And what we do at Value Solutions, we believe in adding value to student athletes and coaches, right? So we go out and we give keynote speeches. I'm gonna give keynote speeches during my Dive message. Also being able to provide my Dive book, which is coming out tomorrow. And at the same time, also doing trainings, right? So I think my main thing is identity, right? So even from my Dive book, I'm talking about my identity in athletics and then how that same identity was then, was challenged and how I had to redefine, reinvest, add value, and execute, right, on my transition and my identity out of the league. So I also use the DISC, right? We just talked about to help athletes, help coaches understand who they are outside of being coaches. Because especially with coaches, because high school, college coaches, NFL coaches, that is a real grind. Like I remember there are coaches, I won't name them, but there's coaches that I know never left the building during the season, slept at the building. And I'm like, how do they have a family? Do they have a family? Because so when you talk about like you losing your identity, that's very easy to lose your identity to your work, right? And not even necessarily knowing who you are if you do, and when you do leave that field or when you do leave that building. So that's my main thing is identity, because I know how serious it was to me and how, like, I remember those moments, right? Being on the couch and not knowing what I was going to do, like not knowing how I was going to go or which way I was going to take. And it was all because I believe I didn't necessarily know who I was outside of what I did. So I also I perform trainings as well, using the DISC and workshops, one-on-one sessions, small group sessions. But everything is all about identity, from my keynote speaking to the books and to also the workshop trainings.
Awesome. Justin, where can we find you?
So you can find me at my website, justinbrownvs.com. Also on social media handles. Instagram is JustinBrown_VS. Facebook is Justin Brown. Twitter is Justin Brown_VS. And then LinkedIn is Justin Brown.
And I think I see a picture of your book right behind you. Is that your book behind you?
The bigger version is right here, but I also have a copy that's right here. So.
All right, let's show the copy. Yeah. Wow, congratulations. Yes. Y'all, we need to give an emoji clap in the comment section. You are about to launch tomorrow.
Yes,
This is
absolutely.
awesome. Awesome. Is there any way we can support this launch? Do we go to this website to purchase your book?
Yes. Yes, you can go right to justinbrownvs.com and you can support me by purchasing my book, and I appreciate every inch of support.
Awesome. Awesome. Justin, is there anything else you would like to leave the audience with?
No, I mean, honestly, Dr. Donna, I really appreciate you having me on this platform and being able to allow me to share my story. And for all the audience, you know, honestly, I just believe in, you know, whether, you know, you're a parent, whether you're, you know, first responder, you know, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, you know, an essential worker, like understanding who you are right now, you know, really trying to use, especially using this time, right? Time to where you might have to be secluded, might have to not be able to go outside, you know, really start to have those talks with yourself. Right, like who are you? Who are you outside of being a parent? Who are you outside of, you know, your job? What are the things that you like to do? Right, what are the things, you know, that interest you? What are your talents? What are your gifts? And it's you're not too old or too young to ever have to redefine, right, who you are or to figure that out. So I think that that's my challenge for each and every single person that I come across, especially when it comes to being professionals, understanding who you are outside of your profession. I think that that's the best thing that I can leave everyone with.
Awesome. Justin Brown, everybody. I have nothing else to say. I appreciate you coming on as always, brother. I'm here to support you in all your endeavors. You're more than welcome back to the Dr. Dawn platform. Congratulations on your book launch tomorrow. I know it'll be an absolute success. And I know that you will continue to pour in to our kids, our students, our athletes, and our retired athletes as well as you have already. So thank you so much for being a beacon of light to everyone, especially on this evening. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Dr. Dawn. I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to coming back on.
Definitely. And everybody listen, please share this with everyone you know. This was a wonderful broadcast, especially for kids. We need to pour into our kids, right? Especially if they're interested in athletics, let them know to go ahead and watch this with them. Let this be a lesson moment, right? A testimonial. And please continue to share this, and I will see you back here, same time, same place next week on the Live with Dr. Dawn show. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
I got no rules, I count 'em.